Hi everyone! Today's video is going to be a little bit different. Rather than being a talking head that shares writing related advice and meditations on the writing life, I'm going to take you through a small tour of my library as I share the touchstone books I return to again and again for inspiration, but also the other areas of my life and other activities I engage in to really fuel my writing. As promised, this is my library. So, this library section, this small hallway, is the reason why we decided to go ahead and get this property. Because, I mean, how could you not check out these bookshelves? Plus, there's bookshelves everywhere in the house. So, some writers say that when they go to libraries and bookstores, they pick up a book and it often deflates them and they think, I can't write that book. But when I look at books, it re inspires me. In fact, when I'm starting to doubt the writing process, I often come and pick out my first edition collection, my first edition printing of Carrie by Stephen King. So if you don't know the story, King wrote the manuscript for Carrie. He got about 20,000 words in, and then he started to doubt himself. Who am I to write this story? So he threw it in the bin. And then his wife, Tabitha, pulled it out, read it, and said, You have got to finish this book. So he did, and the rest is history. So whenever I look at this book, I always think about the possibilities that a story can have and how I am the last person who should be really second guessing the possibilities and the potentials of that title. I also have a collection in my library of craft books that I return to again and again whenever I need inspiration or I want to feel a sense of community with other writers. For a while, especially when I was beginning, I used to read craft books that were really focused on nut and bolt principles like plot, characterization, that sort of thing. But now I lean towards books like Still Writing by Denny Shapiro, which is much more about the heart of writing. What is it that leads us to the page? What is it we're really trying to get at when we're writing? Are we trying to understand the world or ourselves? Or are we just the vessel through which the story comes? I love The Writer's Room by Charlotte Wood, which is a collection of interviews with mostly Australian writers, as well as her other book, The Luminous Solutions, as you can tell from all of my post-its here. But Juicy Pens and Thirsty Paper by Sark is just delicious. It is such a great book to return to whenever you need a boost of creativity because Sark presents her books in this style that is very much like a children's book, but it's all writing related advice. And then, of course, there is the writing craft book that everybody loves, and that is Writing Down the Bones by Natalie Goldberg. So, obviously, this is a really well known book, and it's with good reason. But another one I love is Journal of a Solitude by May Sarton, again, as you can tell by my stickies here. And I love this book basically because May Sarton is living the life I wish I was living. And then whenever I feel like I need a bit of a kick up the butt, I go to The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. I think the title sort of says it all. This is the story of a happy marriage by Anne Patchett. Pretty much has the best essay I've ever read that discusses how you become a writer in a practical sense, but then also, like, what does it mean to be a writer? And are you the kind of person who can be a writer? Now I'm just showing off here basically and showing you my Halloween display. And obviously, this sort of play, this sort of stuff definitely gives me inspiration. But like a lot of writers, I am, of course, deeply inspired by nature. And I think that this has become a real cliche for most creatives to be inspired by nature, but it's just the truth. I think you can always find a lot of headspace. Check out these hydrangeas. I cannot wait for them to come into bloom. Not only do I find inspiration in nature, but I especially find inspiration in long walks, something I have written about quite a lot on my blog actually. Sometimes I'm thinking about creative problems and my stories, but sometimes I'm also just present and taking in nature, and it makes a big difference. When you're out in nature, it can feel like this is real life. And everything I do back in my office and in my day to day is like my pretend life. But when you're out here and you're standing in front of a waterfall, it just, it's such a cliche, but it just puts things in perspective. And it always makes me think about how I want my writing to really be something that is joyful and never something that I have a conflicted relationship with. And sometimes I get ideas when I'm out here in nature, but so often it's just giving myself some mental space and it just makes everything feel quiet. And like many writers, my daily walks, and in this case with my dogs, is definitely a part of my routine. It's just a break from the writing, and oh my god, seriously, how cute is this little girl? Okay, so look, having dogs is really awesome and stuff. Like, it's really great getting to take them for walks, but I'm really not into coming into the library and seeing that the dog has chewed my Virginia Woolf book. Visual art is another one of those touchstones for me for inspiration. And look, it really doesn't happen very often, but if I can get to an actual gallery and check out an exhibition by myself, that is like inspiration gold. Julia Cameron often talks about going on artist dates, and for me, that can often mean just walking the streets and checking out some local graffiti. And that can be a huge source of inspiration. But I also find inspiration in really goofy bar memorabilia, as well as, like accessories, such as this really nifty little plot twist pin that I like to wear. I'm really fortunate too that we live in a really beautiful city. So, whenever I feel like I need to get out of the house, I'm lucky in that there are many beautiful, gorgeous parks that I can go to here. Because, as I'm sure you can relate, most writers, we work from home. So, it's really nice to be able to get out of the house and to go somewhere that is aesthetically pleasing and that is calm and that can really sort of fuel the writing. It's amazing how literally just changing your environment, just going somewhere different, can make you either one, feel more focused on the writing because there's less distractions, or it can just make the day feel a little bit fresher because, well, let's be honest, Nine Inch Nails said it the best: every day is exactly the same. Choosing to go out and write at cafes can honestly feel like a total luxury. But again, it's that swapping up and that changing of environment that can make me feel much more focused when it comes to writing. Now, I've spoken a lot about how I use the Pomodoro technique, writing for 25 minutes to a set timer. And that as well creates this really strong container where I can focus on my writing. And it eliminates all those potential distractions because when you know you only have to focus for 25 minutes, it's a lot easier to say no to opening your email. And look, honestly, if 25 minutes is too long, then just write for 5 or 10 minutes. Or maybe you can work to a goal, like setting the bare minimum goal of writing only 500 words a day. So, in short, that's basically all I have to share with you today. Thanks for coming along and for watching this bizarre video with weird clips. I hope you really enjoyed it. Now, go get some writing done.